allow me to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Goodwin. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and it's my honor to be the Executive Director for Out on Screen and the Vancouver Queer Film Festival. It's an auspicious evening, our 30th anniversary festival, and at Out on Screen, we recognize that we are on the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We acknowledge these territories in order to follow protocol of the nations whose land Out on Screen is on, and we do it to show respect and to remind ourselves that the relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people isn't yet rooted in right relations. And so I'm going to invite up to welcome the Vancouver Queer Film Festival onto their territories, Karina Sparrow and Paul Mack from the Musqueam First Nation.
Eat now Vancouver Playhouse. See tallest quite tall. I meet up what we eat now. Musqueam art, Tamo, Tush, Armits, Tassan Kamina. Eat Cia, Tus Homi, eat Salubatop, Misteo, Etc.
Dear friends and relatives, my name is Karina Sparrow. I'm from Musqueam and from the Pentlatch Nation as well. I want to extend my gratitude to my relative here, Mac Paul, for providing a traditional welcome in our Punkamina language, because I am still learning our language. So I want to say to my relative, Haichka, Nastak, appreciate you doing that. Our ancestors and our relatives have been stewards of this land and these waters forever. And our people, our Musqueam people, have watched over this place where the Vancouver Playhouse now stands for thousands of years. And it is by that authority and on behalf of my relative and our families that I want to welcome you to our territories and welcome you to the festival here today. I'm truly grateful, and my heart is glad to have been asked to provide a welcome, and you are all welcome. I want to share a little bit, some of us in Musqueam over the past couple of years have been engaged in a research project. Turn off that alarm, right? We've been engaged in some research looking at Coast Salish Two-Spirit identities and experiences over the past couple of years. And in that process, we've been able to talk with a lot of our community members and our elders and our knowledge keepers and the older generations about what they learned growing up about Two-Spirit people and our identities and experiences, some of the stories about Two-Spirit people, some of the teachings that go along with that. And in that process, I asked one of my aunties what she remembered growing up about Two-Spirit or queer people. And she said that she didn't actually recall ever hearing anybody talking about stories or teachings or anything around Two-Spirit identities or experience at all. And in fact, that she didn't remember anybody ever talking about anything about Two-Spirit or queer people. And her understanding of that was because Two-Spirit and queer people, there was always an unspoken acceptance in our community and in our culture. She said that there was never a need to talk about it because it was unquestioned. It was always part of our community. And I take that, I have a lot of respect for that teaching and all of the lessons that go along with that teaching, and I hold it really close to my heart. And I am also very aware that times have changed for our two-spirit relatives. Circumstances have changed, and the needs of our two-spirit relatives have changed over time. As settler society has developed, around our traditional territories, with the coming of colonization and the imposition of colonial policies like the Indian Act, like residential school, the forced imposition of Christianity and things like that on Indigenous societies, it changed the way that our two-spirit relatives are viewed, not only outside of our community and outside of our culture, but within our families and our communities as well. And I encourage you that if you are not aware of the history of residential schools or the impact of colonization on Indigenous societies and two-spirit people in particular, I encourage you to look into that and to seek out that knowledge, because I think that you'll find that the colonization process and the imposition of the values that go along with that, heteronormativity, heteropatriarchy, the affects are very similar in how it affects two-spirit people and our LGBTQ plus friends and allies as well. So it changed the experiences over time of our two-spirit relatives. So, and as a two-spirit person, I know that the silence, around two-spirit identity and experience in our families and communities can mean all sorts of things. I mean, there's unspoken acceptance, but as a two-spirit person, I know that silence for me has meant it's very dismissive. Silence can be judgmental. Silence can be based out of fear. It can be harmful. And it is for those reasons that as relatives, as family, as friends and allies of two-spirit and LGBTQ plus people, that we do everything that we can to lift the voice and raise the visibility of our two-spirit and LGBTQ plus people, that we do everything in our power to create those safe spaces for our community members to gather together, to share with one another, and to celebrate our identities and experiences. And it is for those reasons that I am so, so grateful and honored to have been asked to provide this welcome with my relative here today. And I really just want to take this opportunity to raise my hands in gratitude and say thank you to all of the organizing committee, the Out on Screen staff and committee, all of the hands that had a part in putting on the Vancouver Queer Film Festival. It's such good work that you're doing, and I really want to wish you a very happy 30th birthday. I'm so, so honored to be here. We're so happy to be part of this event, and I just want to raise my hands and say thank you all very much.
The Vancouver Queer Film Festival, we started 30 years ago as a way to bring art and culture to the gay games that were happening here in Vancouver. And it quickly evolved and began to serve two really key functions in Vancouver, was to showcase LGBTQ plus stories and films not screened elsewhere, and to have a uniquely queer space for our communities to gather and celebrate each other. Now it's 30 years later, and the world has certainly changed, But the unique role the VQFF occupied early on remains just as critical now as it did then. Because while we're seeing a lot of Hollywood films centering queer stories, which is both really wonderful and extremely important, they also remain primarily focused on our coming out stories and the world's reaction to our queerness. And they don't yet capture the full complexity and the full beauty of our lives. And those stories that are told don't necessarily center or celebrate many people in our communities whose stories are so rich and complex and are so often overlooked and erased. And our festival's mandate is to celebrate, illuminate, and advance queer lives, which means that we forefront stories from all of our LGBTQ+ communities and hold up those rich, complex stories that don't get visibility elsewhere still today. And we forefront film that queers the narrative, filmmaking that challenges who tells our stories and how those stories are told. And we continue to be a festival that centers fun and celebration, always. And we prioritize intersectional representation on film, which is critical to our social and cultural landscape. The festival also provides a uniquely queer space for 11 days, where we can find a space of our own. We can find old friends and new friends. We can have fun, flirt, meet new people, and be affirmed for who we are. And this may not seem like a big deal to some, but there are very few queer spaces left in Vancouver's changing landscape. And this space that we create for 11 days continues to be just as important now as it was 30 years ago. So my invitation to you is, over the next 11 days, let's celebrate our 30 years together. You'll see many new films that pay tribute to the past 30 years, beginning with tonight's film that you're going to see, 1985. I also invite you to look out to Miss Rosewood, to the very hot and steamy Shakedown, and to 50 Years of Fabulous for more blasts from the past. Here's to the past 30 years and to 30 more. To acknowledge some of our festival partners. We haven't had a presenting sponsor for our festival for 11 years, and it's not a decision we take lightly. RBC has become a friend of ours and has financially supported Out on Screen, the VQFF, and Out in Schools now for 5 years, and we are pleased to partner with them to be our special 30th anniversary presenting sponsor. So to welcome you to the festival is BC's Regional President for RBC, Martin Thibodeau.
Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? RBC is thrilled to be the 30th anniversary presenting sponsor of the Vancouver Queer Film Festival. Being new to British Columbia, I am delighted to be here tonight to kick off one of the most exceptional events of this dynamic city. Over the course of the next week and a half, you will have the opportunity to see and hear powerful stories told by a fantastic roster of filmmakers. The Vancouver Queer Film Festival provides a vital platform to increase queer, trans, and two-spirit representation in film and society, and it brings me great pride that RBC is the presenting sponsor of such a dynamic festival. At RBC, we recognize that the arts play an important role in building vibrant and strong communities, which is why we are dedicated to supporting queer film festivals across the entire country. We also believe that by helping young people unlock their potential, we can assist them with building a stronger future for themselves and for Canada. That is why tonight, I am very pleased to announce that RBC is making a donation of $10,000 to Out in Schools so we can help Out in Schools. So we can help Out in Schools to reach more youth and more schools across our beautiful province. 9 years. I want to say a special and sincere thank you to the team at Out on Screen and Out in Schools for trusting us with the privilege of being one of your partners. I would also like to take a moment to thank a very special group of people. You would have seen them as you came into the theater this evening, and without them, this festival would not have been possible. Please join me in giving the festival volunteers a huge round. Once again, on behalf of the entire team at RBC, thank you for joining us this evening, and I look forward to connecting with many of you at the opening gala party tonight, because I never miss a good party. With that, enjoy your film.
Thank you, Martin. So I also want to recognize our premier partners for the festival. Without these long-standing partners, this festival couldn't happen. That's Cineplex, Scotiabank, OTV Go, and Delta Airlines. And a special shout out to our earliest and longest partners, our partners in the 20 Plus Club. And I also want to thank for having the confidence in us year over year, which is critical to building and holding a queer space. Some of our key festival sponsors have been standing with us for more than 10 years. I want to thank them as well. And a generous thank you to those who have supported us for at least 5 years. Your commitment to the festival allows us to plan with certainty and confidence. Thank you. I like that the logos keep getting smaller and smaller. Love it. And I'm also pleased to introduce our new festival babies, our new sponsors. And we are grateful to have the ongoing support of governments. We are honored to have with us tonight, and I'm going to announce a handful of people, so please hold your applause until everyone is announced. Our Member of Parliament, Dr. Hetty Fry, MP Kennedy Stewart, MLA Bowen Ma, Hereditary Chief of the Squamish Nation, Ian Campbell, Municipal Councillor Hector Bremner. Thank you very much for coming. And of course, thank you, all of you, and I mean it so sincerely. Our audience, our donors, our friends, for 30 years of your love, support, fun. This festival is literally for you, and if you were to stand in our office, you would truly understand that we love you from all the way to the moon and back. We really do, and thank you so much. So, I recently got some good advice from a couple of longtime festival friends, and they told me to simply ask for what we need and tell you why we need it. So I'm taking their advice tonight. For our 30th anniversary, we need to raise $30,000 from all of you, your friends, and your family. About half of our festival is funded by private donations, so we actually can't do it without your support. Your donations go to support things like, for example, bringing an out-of-town director to the festival. We have several of those here at the festival, and a few of them here tonight, actually. That costs us on average about $2,000 a piece. The rental fees for a single film you watch can cost us $500 each. We pay every artist for their craft because we believe in the value of art. and our venues that we lovingly sit in and enjoy the air conditioning of collectively cost us more than $20,000 over the course of the festival. So, and what we raise at the festival also helps to fund out in schools. Recently completed independent research has, and for those of you that don't know, a research school out of UBC has recently completed independent research that statistically proves that even one out in schools presentation reduces bullying in schools.
Yeah.
And repeat visits by out in schools further reduces as well. And so your donation will help us pay for us to fly up to Haida Gwaii in October for a full week in their schools, and it will be our 3rd visit there. And that's about $7,000. It will also help us reach young people in Prince George and all the way over on the west coast of Vancouver Island to Ucluelet this fall, each costing around $2,500. And I point these places out because we actually do a lot of work here in the Lower Mainland as well, but I point these places out because these are the places that don't have the same kind of access to resources and community as we do. So your donation helps make trips like these possible. And so my invitation to you is not just to have fun and to celebrate at the festival, but at the end of this screening and or future screenings, please visit the donor services table outside the theaters and talk to Nahi, Jeff, or Sam, who will be there, to make or increase your donation today. To help kick things off, we have a very generous family in Vancouver who just yesterday put up a matching donation, offering to match every donation dollar for dollar up to the first $6,000. So your gift tonight or in the next few days is effectively doubled. So I want to thank you in advance for your support. Now we're here to actually kick off the festival with our opening gala film, 1985. Woo! And one more thing, after the film tonight, it's party time. Please join us outside on the plaza for a black and white party where you'll enjoy music, friends, drink, good food from Hawksworth, and you'll want to get your dance on following performances by Vixen Monplex, Carmela Bar, and the House of Coven. So when you leave the theater, just follow the balloons and bring friends. And now on to the films. Our festival program this year is rich, deep, and will remind you of many times over our history in the past 30 years. It is curated by artistic directors Anushka Ratnaraja and Amber Dawn. You will be pleased to get to know Anushka over the next 11 days of film and parties. However, you won't be seeing Amber Dawn at the festival this year. She is, it's okay. She's actually currently doing the important work of attending to her health right now. And so we wish her well right now and vow to enjoy every minute of the program that she and Anushka have lovingly curated. To tell you more about the program and film tonight, I want to introduce our co-executive director, Anushka Ratnaraja.
The brother of our festival programmer, Justin Ducharme, so we like to keep it in the family, and it's also really fortunate that we now have an in-house designer for the festival. Okay, so we're placing orders. Hi everyone, I'm going to try and keep this quick because my feet real hurt. Welcome to the 30th Annual Vancouver Queer Film Festival. As you know, for 30 years, Out on Screen has proudly showcased films that illuminate the everyday and transformative moments in the lives of queer, trans, and two-spirit people. What began as a small group of queer friends and family gathered together to create space for queer film in 1988 has grown to be the second largest film festival in Vancouver, no big deal, screening the best in independent queer media and performance from around the world and also here at home. This is only my second year here with Out on Screen, but I am proud and excited to be working with a diverse community of artists and advocates who believe in the transformative power of queer art. Most importantly, I am proud to work towards an art scene and film world that prioritizes those of us who continue to be underrepresented in the stories we see on screen. Two-spirit people, queer and trans people of color, queer and trans sex workers, immigrants, women, and queer and trans people living in poverty and on the fringes of our already marginalized communities. Our programming this year is a reflection of how far we've come as communities and artists. Just want to quickly ask how many festival artists are in the house tonight? Come on, I know you're here. I invited you. Okay, there are some of them. Yeah, they're drinking. I mean, I would be if I was. Okay, so thank you for your brave and brilliant work. You are literally the reason we do this, and without you, we wouldn't exist.
Thank you.
Was my previous paragraph. All right. Our films this year celebrate and interrogate the past, as Steph said, like The Fruit Machine, Happy Birthday, Marsha, and of course tonight's incredible film, 1985. They also document and explore our lives as they are now, with films like our centerpiece Gala, White Rabbit, Call Her Ganda, and the work of our artists in residence, the amazing Thurza Cut Hand. And our local artists in residence, the also very amazing Love Intersections. Our program includes films that are also stunning in their imaginativeness and visions of queer aesthetics, like Sookie and Lee's Octavio is Dead. She's really cool. I'm freaking out that I met her. Behat Travesty, Miss Rosewood, and so many more. Queer film is no longer coming out. We don't really feel like we have something to prove anymore. At least that's the way it seems from the films that I've watched this year. We don't need to simply demand space or validate our existences. The queer film I've seen this year can now take up the space that we have and expand it into so many vast universes of expression and emotion. Even the powers that be in the film industry can see this. They can see that we are amazing storytellers and artists, even though we've been from a deficit for far too long. As greatly as I am heartened by the increase of representation for us in the mainstream, I also hope for the longevity of dangerous and subversive queer art. I hope that our weirdness, our freakiness will continue to flourish. Yes. Because it's important for us to remember that we are the subversives. We have not always been. Indeed, there has been a concerted effort over centuries by colonization and patriarchy to repress us, destroy us, make us forget our own ancestors and our places as storytellers and leaders. The Two-Spirit peoples of Turtle Island know this far too well. It is because of that violence that has been historically employed against us that has made us into the troublemakers that we are. And so I hope for queer art to keep troubling audiences, to make us uncomfortable, to question our safety and normalcy. I believe art is our most powerful weapon in the fight for liberation and justice. Art is our most compassionate and intelligent tool for resistance if we are to survive and thrive in a world that is increasingly hostile towards us. Art making can do the important work of building empathetic connections between us, between people on screen and in theater seats. These are, frankly, kind of terrifying times. And it is more important than ever that we gather together in all our multiplicity and difference, to learn from and share with each other, to cross bridges to each other so that we can build resistance, safety, and joy together. If you meet an artist tonight, thank them. Without queer, trans, and two-spirit artists, our worlds would be much less full because they beautifully, fiercely, and honestly represent the fullness of our shared humanity. I firmly believe art and culture are essential human rights, as important to a fulfilling human life as water, food, and shelter, because like water, food, and shelter, art and culture contribute to our health and connections and self-determination. And as queer, trans, two-spirit, and Indigenous queer people, we have been denied access to this essential human right for far too long. I'm grateful for this moment, this rising. Oh, my hands are on. Imagine the moon being lifted behind me for this rising, and simultaneously know and hope that there are many queer years ahead of us to make the world all the more beautiful and dangerous with our stories. Tonight's film, 1985, beautifully exemplifies this fact. Yen Tan, who's here, captures the past in both story and style, shooting in black and white on 60mm film, an impressive and dedicated feat in this digital age. He also illuminates universal and timeless themes of loneliness, belonging, and intergenerational tension. 1985 personifies the AIDS crisis at the time when the political ramifications of an HIV diagnosis were synonymous with social judgment and isolation, as well as lack of care and dignity. Something that remains true today, especially for Black and Indigenous people who are disproportionately affected by HIV and AIDS in North America. This crisis is not over for many of us, including those of us who have lost and continue to lose many loved ones to this disease. So on that note, please join me in welcoming the wonderful Yen Tan to the stage to say a bit more about his stunning film.
I'm pretty sure I can't top any of that tonight, so I'm just gonna improv and hopefully it comes across well. I'm born and raised in Malaysia, and I now live in Austin, Texas. And I apologize for all the trauma that our country is afflicting. I mean, a lot of us feel the same way, and like making 1985 for me is a way to resist what's going on now. And I hope you guys enjoy the film and get something out of it. I would warn you that I've done this enough to be confidently say this, that it's going to be a really emotional experience, but it's going to be like a meaningful emotional experience, hopefully. And then we can talk about it afterwards. I'll be at a party, so you can feel free to cry and whatnot, and I'll do my best to console you. I hope you like the film. And thanks so much for having me here, because I mean, this is my first time in Vancouver, and I feel like my recent trips when I go out of the country and come back, I have a feeling I'm going to leave Vancouver with that sinking feeling again that I'm going back to America. But, you know, thanks for making me feel that, so.
Great, so now we can finally celebrate the opening of the festival and our 30 years in this complex polyamorous relationship with each other. Happy anniversary, babies! We live